Kansas City is in desperate need of a proper animal shelter to house its abandoned and displaced animals. KC Pet Project has taken on the arduous task, working towards becoming a no-kill shelter.
The philosophy on shelter management has definitely changed over the last 40 years. In the 70s and 80s, unfortunately, the way animal management was done by cities in this country is they would catch them, and if somebody didn't come and reclaim them, they would be euthanized. And so shelters were generally designed back then as catch-and-kill facilities, so they would bring them in, hold them for 3 to 5 days, and euthanize, and that's all the space that they needed. As our attitudes toward stray and homeless animals have evolved, thankfully, over the last couple of decades, there's been a lot more emphasis on making shelters an area in a place where animals can be rescued and they can be saved and they can get rehomed. And it's been really good, but unfortunately a lot of the old shelters aren't necessarily designed to be the most public-friendly type places. They don't have the space that necessarily they need. They're not warm and inviting, and they tend to be in really out-of-the-way locations where if we don't see it, it's not really happening type of thing, instead of in a place where people will go to shop, if you will, for a new pet to join their family. So we've come a long ways. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of people that are trying to be in roles of doing more life-saving, without with being in a shelter that wasn't designed necessarily for that purpose.
In 2006, just 6 years ago, the shelter was euthanizing almost 7,000 animals annually. Intake was over 10,000 a year, with a live release rate of 34%. In 2011, the shelter euthanized under 2,000 animals, and intake was just over 6,000, with a live release rate of 68%. In 2008, the city cut the number of animal control officers significantly, and intake decreased.
One of the things when we first took this over, when we were in the negotiations with the city, is, obviously there are two ways to minimize the number of animals who get killed. You can either get more of them out or keep more of them from coming in. And so we worked with the city beforehand of ways that things that they can do to keep animals from getting into the shelter in the first place. So among the things that they did is agreeing not to confiscate animals for people being over the pet limit as long as the animals were healthy, agreeing not to confiscate animals that were in violation of other minor ordinances, but only confiscate because of cruelty and neglect, which obviously went those animals out of those situations quickly. But then also they instituted a free ride home program, so if an animal is found lost, they will scan for a microchip and tags, and if the animal can be identified, they'll take them home for free if they're licensed. And it's a way for animal control to get the dog home before they ever come to the shelter and have to then come here and go back out, which may or may not be convenient for somebody. The animal control officer already picked them up in that neighborhood. So programs like that should definitely help bring the number of impounds down.
There are no longer animal control quotas. This has helped to bring the intake numbers down as well. The shelter has made great strides in a very short time in the effort to accomplish a no-kill objective. But there's still work to be done.
My name's Sharon, and I've been coming here about 2 years when it was called Halfway Home, and there were just very few volunteers coming here to walk the dogs. Now we've been through Halfway Home is no longer managing, and the city came back in and took over, and now we have Kansas City Pet Project. And I've been volunteering and what I call banging my head up against the wall for all these years, trying to get new volunteers, trying to get more adoptions, trying to help with rescue. We have to figure out a way to get their temporary home a better place and a safer place and a healthier place. This is not safe for them, and this is not healthy for them because of this facility.
I honestly do feel that what's really hindering this Kansas City Pet Project from being a total and complete success is the limitations of the building. And if they could just have a better facility, there'd be such a greater chance for these little lives.
can get a new shelter, there is no management company, no matter how good they are, that will ever achieve the goals that we need to achieve here. People are fearful of walking in that door with 200 dogs in one room. It's loud, it's scary. It creates an atmosphere of sadness, so people won't come back to volunteer. Sometimes they won't come back to adopt a dog sometimes. So the whole physical facility contributes to the lack of the number of adoptions that we need to be successful.
Friends of KC Animals is a 501c3 organization that serves as a liaison between area shelters and rescue groups, and really aims to help all animals in Kansas City who are abused, neglected, lost, and abandoned. And case by case, we secure rescue for animals, we gather donations for shelters or rescue groups in need of certain supplies. We'll pay for medical treatment of certain animals that otherwise wouldn't get it. And so we're really sort of an all-inclusive group in an effort to take care of animals that really need help.
There was one little dog named Leah that I fell in love with when I was volunteering at the shelter, and she was this little black dog, really not much to look at, had kind of an underbite, you know, and she was just being passed by for months and months, and she was just the sweetest dog, and she was going to be killed, and so I put up a little bio of her on my Facebook page, and sent out an email to anyone I could think of, and through a friend of a friend of a friend, went and adopted her, and she sends me the most uplifting, and I'm just going to get teary just thinking about them. Little Leah on her little bed with her new little best friend Norman, and then playing in the leaves, and she talks about, you know, she's the best dog ever, and all of my friends and family comment on what a wonderful dog she is, and she was going to die, you know, and that's why we do it, because that one life, saving that one life, it just fuels you, because you see so many that are put down, but you just think about that one, and I love getting those emails. It just,
that is why we do it. A year ago in November, last November, I got a call about one in the KCMO shelter, still run by the other entity at that point. He was a puppy. He was about 8 months old. This black and white dog, and he was just terrified. And they had him in the bite section in a lower cage. He wouldn't walk, he wouldn't stand, he wouldn't move, he wouldn't do anything. He was literally catatonic. And I saw his picture and I just fell apart, you know. We literally had to drag him out of the cage and just carry him to my car. He wouldn't even stand up. He was so terribly frightened. And I got him home, I gave him a bath, and within an hour, he was out playing with my dogs and having the time of his life. I mean, that change that came over him, I put him out there, I advertised him. This wonderful, marvelous, fantastic woman adopted him and loves him to death to this day. We're in touch all the time, and she sends me pictures, and that's what it's about.
And that's why we need a new shelter too, because I mean, you look at the way that it's designed and the way these animals are and I can't speak eloquently on it, but the way that these cages are facing each other and just the nature of dogs, it's a high stress environment.
Very.
And if you get the shelter designed so that the animals can't see each other and smell each other, and there's not that constant stimulus, then there isn't the constant barking. I mean, you go into these modern shelters, and it's like night and day. The noise level is down, and so you don't have animals that are petrified, so that they do have a fighting chance to get adopted. So that's one of the most important reasons why we need
I will
a 21st century shelter.
I will say, I totally agree with you. Could not agree with you more. And I know they're doing everything they can right now. I know Shannon Wells is doing marvelous things to socialize these dogs that are stuck in that just almost untenable environment right now. But you know, that is the bottom line to why we do this. Just because some poor unfortunate dog had the bad luck to end up with a not so great owner and wound up in the city shelter. That's not their fault. They deserve a chance. They deserve that chance at a happy life, a happy family, to know love. I mean, that's really, really how we feel about it and why we all do this.
Whenever we came today, we saw some of the cages that said that they hadn't been walked since Monday or Tuesday. It breaks your heart because they're just so excited once they get out. They just start jumping around and they get outside and they're just a normal dog. And what they are inside their cage is not who they are whenever they're free.
I think the city is solely responsible for making any improvements to the shelter until hopefully we can get a new shelter sooner than later. There are space limitations, which is difficult to necessarily change, but a couple things that the city actually could do to improve the overall healthfulness of the facility is to invest in a new HVAC system. Another thing that the city could do is invest in stainless steel kennels. The kennels out at the facility right now have quite a bit of rust on them, and rust is sort of a breeding ground for disease. It's very difficult, if at all possible, to clean the disease out of the rusty kennels. So new stainless steel kennels would be a wise investment. If I didn't do what I do, I wouldn't even know about that place. And it is always difficult, I think, to get answers from people when you're calling city lines and that kind of thing to find out where my dog is. So we need to promote that the shelter's even there. Most people don't know it exists.
Well, obviously it's a huge challenge. You know, we're an open admission shelter, so, you know, we can get anywhere from 3 or 4 animals in on a day to 109 like happened earlier this week. And so, you know, our experience has been that you have to be ready for just about anything, and, you know, that there's always needs to be a focus on getting animals adopted into rescues and shelters, because there's always more coming in back behind them. And, you know, it was a big project. We are excited to be taking it on, but it's a lot of work for the shelter this size.
Kansas City, Missouri Animal Shelter takes anything and everything. So if someone's driving down the street and finds a pony with a broken leg that's wandering along the road, they could literally take that pony to this animal shelter. They could take any animals all the time. Without volunteers really consistently reaching out to rescue groups and consistently posting things through social media, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of animals would no longer be alive.
There are more volunteers right now. They had a great volunteer orientation this past Sunday with 64. That was probably a record-breaking training class. But my fear is, like in the past, that maybe a third of them will be retained as longtime volunteers, because it takes a tough constitution to be able to keep coming back and seeing these fellas sit here day after day in these very small kennels and a very large room full of dogs.
You get a lot of new volunteers, and hopefully they do get a lot of new volunteers, but it's all a matter of them coming back. Volunteering at an animal shelter isn't for everyone. It's most difficult your first time, because it is sad to see animals in cages, but by volunteering consistently, you realize that you have a direct impact on whether that animal lives or dies.
also to the public, if you would consider contacting your city council people, because members, because they are the ones that are going to be voting to put this on the ballot soon, hopefully in the summer or the fall of this year. And make sure that they know that we do need and we do deserve a new shelter for these animals. And then to anyone that is making financial decisions from a corporation in this city or this region, please consider donating to a fund. We feel like we're going to need to model ourselves after the Kansas City Zoo, the Friends of the Zoo, where the zoo is a city-owned property and entity, and the volunteers and the civic-minded people of this city came together and really started raising money and now manage the zoo and manage the process, and it's quite the success story.
I think that all of these various groups are definitely wanting to see a new animal shelter in Kansas City, Missouri. But it's going to come down, I think, to both private and public dollars to make that a reality.
I have not experienced in my life something that's quite as rewarding as that. To see a being that was completely and utterly helpless and at the whim of human beings, right? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? My fate is totally in your hands. And when you take an animal like that, especially, Carol describing the dog that was almost catatonic out, and you see what love and time and attention can do, it's miraculous. And it's like it fills us up so much. It is soul food at its absolute best. And that's why we're sitting here. The dogs benefit, but ultimately we benefit, because it feels so good to do that. It feels so good to help an animal who cannot help itself. It's just one of the things that, it does. It does. I agree. My hope is for more people to experience that.
We're all responsible for where we are right now with the shelter. It's always gotten pushed to the back burner. And so now we are 35 years in. The shelter is literally falling apart. And this isn't just a matter of animal wellness or animal welfare. It does affect people. If someone works at the shelter, actually is on the staff, they're the ones breathing the air all day, every day. So if the HVAC system isn't where it needs to be, the person may ultimately suffer. Volunteers are spending time at this facility. The public is coming in and looking at adopting animals here. This is a human matter as much as it is an animal matter. And it's time that we made progress on this, finally.
Like it or not, our actions, our experiences, are the things that end up defining us. It is universal to all of us as human beings to feel an eagerness to connect. You have a unique and indispensable contribution to this world. If you start to view all mortal creatures as a component of yourself, it will change your perspective on life. That is the only way to be the change that you wish to see in this world.